How you doing today, everybody? Well, this is Carpo, shooting from my living room. A rare opportunity because the wife went to the store and took the other kid's in school. Very rare moment. I actually woke up this morning feeling pretty crappy. Just kind of like out of it, just kind of like under the weather, you know. And I took a nap. I've been congested and just burned out, probably from doing so much construction and remodeling stuff. It just wore me out. And I woke up and I was looking at this. Well, somebody had invited me to this group, and on one various networks, whatever. I went and checked out this group, and I went onto the page, and the first thing I saw was something somebody had written or typed on there about how they just created these something for the chakras, and something about archangels, something about gods and goddesses, and I instantly just clicked off and just, no thanks. So I've been thinking about that, and I realized that in my years I've become very, I've always been skeptical. I don't just believe something because people say to believe it. But I feel like the spiritual New Age movement, whatever you want to call it, is almost as dogmatic as religion in some regards, and not always, just with certain groups and certain people. But what really turned me off was let's take the Christian who tells you you're going to hell if you don't believe that. It's not that extreme. I've never met a person who says, well, if you don't pray to the gods and goddesses and the archangels, you're gonna, burn, or your life won't be complete. But they do. Many people do tend to have kind of an air about them that, well, you just don't get it yet. Then all you have to do is a little bit more research, and you'll figure it out. Look, it says right here in this book that Archangel Gabriel, yada yada yada, and it goes on and on and on. And I went to this retreat one time. It wasn't a retreat. It was like a Burning Man event, the local one that they have. It's called Soak. But in that event, they had this like group meeting. It was like a group meditation in a big teepee, huge teepee. And there were about 30 of us in there. And I hadn't done anything like that with that basis, with calling upon archangels, and the lady says, we call upon the Archangel Michael, and yada yada yada, and she says all this stuff, and I just kind of like, whatever, I'm there for the group, for the meditation. But over the years, I've heard these names repeated, and I start thinking, well, why should I care about an archangel? Why should I give any of my time to thinking about somebody named Gabriel or somebody named Michael, that is supposedly this archangel or angel or whatever you want to call it. And over the years, I've realized that it's not that I dispute the fact that there may be angels or higher beings or entities, whether they be this dimension or aliens, I don't know. But I don't have any real evidence to base calling these angels or to use it as part of my meditation. And it's not just these people, it's the chakras as well. I believe the chakras are a archetype for growth, if you will. I'm not denying that chakras are a real energy center, but they're being played on as, like that one a while back. I said, there's a video where somebody was selling these chakra balancing tattoos, and she said, oh, I got a tattoo on my base chakra, and it really helped me. And so she created these, like, I don't know what language they're in, but these Eastern type symbols with these, foreign words on it. I mean, words that we don't even speak, and as an English person, you would think you would want the English word or the English intent behind it. But it's almost like everything's just kind of disguised as this fancy, floaty, spiritual essence. And it sucks, because I'd like to believe that, there's a sense of greatness, that there's something above and beyond us. Not a god or an angel, but just an entity that's consciously aware, not a superior intelligence like a universal intelligence, but rather an individual, independent, let's say, angel that is watching over humanity. And I have absolutely no reason to believe that any more than I have reason to believe that hell exists or Satan exists. But seeing how, fervently people will argue to say that hell does exist, well, it's only natural that some of the more, mundane things will be argued too. That, well, we can't really prove or disprove this, so it must be true. So I guess the approach that I've had to take in my life is just to cast all that shit aside. All of it. Everything. Everything that I've learned about spirituality, I had to throw out the door. 5 years ago, about 3 or 4 years ago, I was into Eastern meditation philosophy. I'm not a meditator myself. I have a hard time focusing on that, but it's something I do need to do more. But I think that meditation is the right approach to finding yourself and your true nature, because you're going within yourself, meditation has never been shown to be garbage. In fact, it's the one thing. People will argue against spirituality and religion and say, this God's not right, this God's not right, but I've never heard one person ever say that meditation is useless. The scientists, the health authorities, the physicians, doctors, they're all telling us that meditation is good for us. They've hooked us up to, EEGs or whatever they are, and monitor brainwaves and find that a person calms down and it reaches a relaxed state. So there we have it. Meditation works. Meditation is a real thing. Okay? And why isn't it like the main focus of everything? Well, because of most religions. It's because it takes time to go in yourself. It seems like it's easier to call upon some other archangel or some other being or some god to help us out rather than to go within ourselves and find out what it is that's irking us or holding us back. And it makes, I don't want to seem like I'm pointing fingers by saying, oh, you're wrong, because that's not what this is about. This is about, in my personal realizations, I've found that there's so many paths to take. Why waste time on one that hasn't been shown to really get anywhere? And some of the Eastern philosophies and beliefs seem to take a person a little further. For example, I've seen how people act when they're meditating or whatnot. The type of people who meditate, they seem to be very calm and collected. You would never hear them ranting to you that you're going to hell or something like many Christians do. So, and I'm not blaming all Christians. I'm just using that as an example why. How a belief in a certain idea can bring you to separate yourselves from others and tell others they're wrong. So by casting out all these separations, we're left with very little. Meditation is something that doesn't separate you. It brings you more together with yourself. But that's just one. It's just one thing that I know helps people. But I don't know what to really make of all this archangel nonsense. To me, it's, I could be totally wrong. I've read all the ancient, the text that people send me when they say, hey, look at this, and I find it fascinating, but alas, it's just a text. It's just another written text. So many of them are so convincing. But if you throw out all the texts, and you throw out everything that other people say, and you set yourself on a desolate reality, and look at things for what they really are, you start to realize that you're on your own as far as finding that truth. You have to find comfort within living, within being. We can't just continue to live a bad lifestyle and then hope that somebody will bail us out, whether it be a god or an angel, family, friends, whatever. We have to take part in our society, but we also have to give ourselves a little credit and realize that everything that we believe has been programmed within us through either our own actions or other people's. In fact, for example, if you'd never heard of what a chakra was, if somebody hadn't told you, would you come up with that conclusion on your own? Maybe. But let's take a more mundane, like an example like, heaven and hell. A person may draw that conclusion on their own to think that if there's good, there must be bad. But it's all just subjective opinion. So I've moved aside from trying to find a particular thing to like a particular belief system. I've never really been looking for one, but I've had a lot of people tell me this is the right one or this is the right one. And the truly right belief system is your own. But not becoming so distant and selfish that, you can't cooperate with your fellow man. We still have feelings of guilt and intuition and, things we have to deal with. So being human, we're just humans. We do what we can. We're doing the best we can. And we're looking for solid information. I don't know. That's just my opinion on the whole thing. If I made contact with some archangel or whatnot, or I could, it's not a matter of just believing these things exist. It's a matter of believing what they say they are, in other words. Believing what other people tell you these things mean is difficult. So chakras, while they may exist, are not necessarily what people say, or the colors people say. Maybe they are, maybe they aren't. But so we have to have a certain degree of trust and a certain degree of skepticism in order to live a healthy life. So those are my thoughts for the afternoon. Take care, everybody.